Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. For those of you who know me, you know I have an obsession with plants. What I wanted to do today is I wanted to do a little plant care day. Spring is approaching and that means it's time to get more plants. But before we do that, I need to give a little extra TLC to the current ones I have. If you watch my last plant video, you see me repotting a whole bunch of plants. Some of those plants, after I repotted them, absolutely thrived. Some of them kind of withered away and did not take to the repotting process very well. We need to do propagating, we need to do feeding, we need to do a neem oil treatment, we need to do a hydrogen peroxide treatment for the ones that are struggling. I'm also going to be planting some seeds in this video as well. Stop it! Stop it! Okay. She's behind me, she's making a mess, she's getting dirt everywhere on this behind me. But there's gonna be dirt probably everywhere by the time this video is done with anyways, so I'll clean it up and figure it out then. So I think for starters, we're gonna knock out the plants really quick that are already thriving. They don't need to be repotted, they just need some neem oil, a little feed treatment, and they're done.
Give me a kiss.
Woo! High five. Good girl! Woo, woo, woo! So for starters, I wore a sweatshirt that wasn't mine because I couldn't figure out what sweatshirt of mine I was willing to possibly ruin. Figured I'd ask for forgiveness if I ruin it. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the palms because I feel like most of my palms are doing relatively well for me being a beginner with my first winter. So the plant food that I got was just this Miracle-Gro Shake and Feed all-purpose plant food. All the soil that I planted my plants in when I got them already had like feed in it, and it fed them up to, I believe it was like 6 months. These plants are already established in their containers, so I'm just gonna follow the instructions. Just going to like work the food into the soil. And then the next step is going to be to water it. So I'm taking my moisture meter that I have. Essentially, I'm just seeing how dry or wet the soil is before I water this feed that I just put in. All right, now the next step to complete this plant is I'm gonna add some neem oil to it. So this is my neem oil solution that I'm going to be using. I just put it in here in a mason jar so that it could be sealed and tight. I mixed this up last night just to make this video a little bit quicker. So I did 4 cups of water, I can't remember, 4 cups of water, I think like half a teaspoon of dish soap and 1.5 teaspoons of neem oil, something along the lines of that. And then I split it up into a couple mason jars, obviously, because 4 cups is not gonna just fit in here. And I'm gonna be putting it into this spray bottle and spraying it on the plants. And then I'm just going to lightly wipe the leaves very gently just to get off all the dust. And that completes my Kentia palm. This next plant is my Parlor palm. Found this beautiful white vase for it and I fell in love with it. You will notice that a lot of my plants are all kind of planted in these same types of pots. I don't even recall where I got them from, which sucks because I don't know how to get them again. I'm just gonna put in enough water to like activate it, but not too much. All right, and now I'm going to attempt to wipe all these down. I mean, I feel like it's gonna be impossible. Also, I've had this plant now for about a year. It is completely unchanged. It hasn't grown any new leaves. It hasn't dropped any leaves. It literally has stayed the same. That's gonna have to be good enough. Hopefully you can see. Maybe you can see, maybe you can't. But there's a lot of dirt on this paper towel. I'm seeing bugs crawl around. Multiple bugs crawl around. So I'm going to extra saturate this one. This like system of pouring this in here, it's not very effective. This one I oversaturated. It doesn't really show on camera, but I oversaturated it with neem oil. I don't know if you can see. That's one of the bugs I sprayed. Next, I'm moving on to my polka dot begonia. This one was featured in my last planting video, actually. And as you can tell, it's pretty much unchanged since I repotted it. But I did notice it's starting to get just a tad bit droopy, so I added this to it. And actually, I need to raise it because it looks like it's falling more. I think it's like that because it needs more, from what I would assume, more light. This one has been up in my bedroom and it's been up there for a year. And I don't know about you, but yes, maybe it's drooping a little bit, but it's still alive and it's actually doing much better than I was expecting. This one does have a name. This one's name is Legolas. I named it on my last video. I will link that video in the description if anybody wants to watch another plant video. I really wish I could take this off Like this just makes things so much more complicated. I really do hope feeding this one helps because I have noticed it's starting to get a little droopy lately. But I do have an LED light in my bedroom for this little guy so that I can give him, I just keep it on the lowest setting. And he thrives up there, so I'll just turn it up a notch. All right, Legolas is done. That's what I love about this guy is he's simple, he's quick, he's easy. Up next, we have one of my golden pothos. I thought golden pothos grow pretty rapidly. I thought they pop out leaves pretty rapidly. My other one did, my other golden pothos just everywhere leaves. This one has had this one singular leaf, this big one, and this tiny one in the back for a year now. And this other one that it seems to be sprouting, it has been sprouting for about 6 months. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong with this little guy. If anybody has any sort of tips or suggestions. I'm gonna do the back of the leaves too on this one. Since there's only 2 leaves, I mean, easy peasy. All right, that little guy is done. As you can see, it's much shinier. Next up, I'm gonna do my aloes, my aloe veras. I absolutely love this one. It's thriving, it's doing great, so I'm like, do I even need to give it plant food? But while I'm here, I might as well do all my plants. This one, I'm not gonna do too much for the food. I'm not gonna overdo it. Like, this plant's thrived since day one. So I'm gonna do the neem oil treatment. And I do recommend doing this treatment like kind of how I'm doing it, on a table with everything away. Because this stuff is messy and sticky. On to my next aloe. This aloe is much bigger, but it's also a different type of aloe. I love the aloe because when I first got the aloe, I was like, oh, this is the type of plant that needs a lot of sun. So I put it in direct sunlight and it started to burn, and I was like, need some aloe for that burn. But in reality, it just took a little trial and error to figure out how much sun this type of plant needs. So a lot of its leaves were kind of crispy and burnt on the end, but it seems like it is recovering. Just enough water to activate that. Sorry if you can hear my dog. She's literally pacing in circles. I don't know. I don't know how to please her most days. Yeah, I love my aloe. They just live their best lives. Once I figured out how to properly like give them the amount of sun that they needed without giving them too much sun, they're like so easy. The key is just not to, the key is to water them properly, I feel like, once you got that down. So what I have in front of me now is my one single surviving bamboo plant. When I bought these, I got them from my IKEA, and I got 2. I named them Daniel and Elijah, and only one has survived. The other one, for some reason that I bought from IKEA, had no roots attached to it. But the way that like I bought them, you couldn't see the roots. They're like wrapped up. Obviously, I didn't know that when I bought it until it started dying, and I couldn't figure out why it was dying. And so I had to like go in there and do a rescue mission. I was like, oh, it doesn't even have roots. This one, obviously, this one's gonna be the easiest one to do. It doesn't need any sort of feed. It doesn't really need anything. I'm gonna give it some water because I can see some of its roots currently are exposed. I am going to be doing a little neem oil on this bad boy because it does have, I gotta stand up for this, because it does have some spider webs on it. So I have 2 spider plants, both of which I got at the same time, and both of which I've treated exactly the same way. I kind of talked about this in my last plant video, but this is how this one looks. You will see how the other one looks. I don't know, I haven't done anything differently with them. All right, pretty much all of it went on the ground. Cool, sick, sweet. All right, I don't know why, but I just noticed that this particular plant has some like roots at the surface that are very exposed. So I think I'm gonna add just like a pinch of new soil. So now I just need to water, and I just watered this one yesterday. So I'm gonna try not to do too much water. Dun, 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 dun. You're probably wondering what's with the cringy singing. So this is my pride and joy. As you can see, this one is doing much better than the other spider plant. I don't know why I'm not doing anything differently to them. Yes, this one's in a different pot because this one I've already repotted once it outgrew the previous pot that you just seen that my other one was in. I think maybe it's thriving because I named it Darth Vader, and it was just so happy with the name. It does have these beautiful white flowers all over. Let me get a nice little close up for that one for you. So this is going to be one of the pots later that I'm going to be propagating. Wow, pots. One of the plants later I'm going to be propagating. The research that I've done, I've never had a snake plant do this well. Yeah, where it has fucking flowers in its dormant season. All these little things right here should be their own plant eventually, from what it sounds like. So I'm gonna try to propagate it and see what happens. I'll probably leave some on just in case the propagation process doesn't take. But for now, we are just going to feed this one. You know, I could probably, oh, the important part is not getting on my phone or my camera. If it gets on me, oh well. Like I said, I stole this sweatshirt from my lady, so if it gets ruined, it wasn't me. It was already like that. Alright, so you will see this guy later in the video when I do the propagation of this. We can call her good. Him. Okay, now we move on to the harder part of the video. My plants that are not thriving. Well, I can't explain it. I'm just gonna show you. There's no other words, can't describe it. You guys remember my last video, if you watched it. I had my pride and joy, one of my favorite plants, and I repotted it. Everything was going great. Sometimes when you repot a plant, it just doesn't work out. Here's my boy, this is Luke. I don't know what's going on, but this is what he looks like now. He has a couple surviving leaves left, but not very many. He doesn't have any pests from what I can see. I put him back in his same spot where he was before I repotted him, and he is not doing well. This is the first little guy that we are tackling. Oh, I didn't even have to cut it. It was so dead, it just came out. I'm just gonna cut off all the dead that I see. I think I'm gonna add more soil to attempt to cover up whatever all this stuff is that's happening up here. Alright, here's my hydrogen peroxide mixture. So a lot of people on the internet, because I did watch some like tutorials on how to do this, because I've never done it before. A lot of people did 1-to-1 ratios of hydrogen peroxide and water. Some people did 2-to-1 ratios, some people did 4-to-1 ratios. So I was like, I want to be a part of the fun too. Me. So I'm making my own ratio as well. Is that okay? Okay, cool, cool. So mine is a 3-to-1 ratio. 3 parts water, 1 part hydrogen peroxide. Boom. So all I'm going to be doing essentially is just spraying it's spraying the soil. Saturate it, and that should, if it will let me spray it. Lazy. Arrogant.
Lazy. Arrogant.
Okay. From what I recall from my schooling days, there's extra oxygen, I believe, in hydrogen peroxide. I'm using a 3% for the hydrogen peroxide I bought. There's more oxygen in it, so I believe that should promote healthier growth. May the force be with you. You're the last Jedi we have. You have to survive. Hopefully that helped. Wingardium Leviosa. Oh my god. Okay, so the next guy we have here, there's nothing wrong with it actually, but in its thriving is also suffering because it is falling over. So essentially, that is what this is for. It is not a wand. First things first, I'm going to feed this plant. I'm doing the sideways technique. Seems to be working a little bit better. Spoiled. All right, so we're going to prop this bad boy up. I have twine in my house. I have no idea where it is. I've been using zip ties. I know there's like actual stuff they make for plants for this, but I don't have that, and my plant's falling over now. Okay, hopefully you can kind of see what I did. All right, so that completes my Golddust dracaena. I believe that's how you pronounce her. My next little guy is another MVP that I planted in my last video. Ever since I replanted it, Rex has been thriving. It's still putting out new leaves. This is one of my favorite plants. However, if you could tell, the leaves now are getting yellow spots. That might be normal. This is my first Philodendron cobra, but I do know, I'll do a little close-up for you guys. You can see, there's that going on. I'm gonna spray it, really saturate it with hydrogen peroxide so that it gets down deep in there. If that green algae doesn't seem like, or whatever that is, doesn't seem like it's going away after a couple of weeks after I treat it, then I might just put it in some new fresh soil. Okay, I tried to saturate it as much as I could. From the research I did, algae does not harm the plant. It's just more of an annoying aesthetic. I'm gonna set this one to the side because later I'm going to do a neem oil treatment on the leaves because they are pretty dirty. Next up is Jar Jar Binks. This one was also featured in my last video. As you can see, it's not necessarily doing bad. It's not as like thriving as it was in the last video. Like if you remember the last video, it had more leaves, it was more luscious. Some of the leaves have died and I have cut them off. I'm not really sure what's going on with it. Every time I check it, seems to be on the really moist side. If you could have seen how it looked like 2 weeks ago, it was bad. So I feel like it's coming back. Maybe I will just feed it, see what happens, you know, wait a couple weeks. And if I have to repot it again, I will, but I'm afraid of repotting it after just recently repotting it. Honestly, I think it could just be it needs food. This is the soil that it came in, like when I got this plant a year ago. This is the soil that it came in, and when I repotted it with the same soil because it's like a barky type of soil. So I was like, oh, I'm just gonna reuse the same soil when I repot it. My thought process is maybe there's just no more nutrients in the soil anymore. Maybe me adding some food will help it come back to life. And if that doesn't fix it, then we'll go from there. Okay, this is my next little guy who's struggling. It's under an LED light, and I normally don't struggle with spider plants. Looking really droopy, so I was like, oh, maybe it needs more sun, so I put it under recently an LED light. It's still incredibly droopy, so what I'm gonna start by doing is I'm gonna start by cutting off all the parts that are dead, for starters. I water it just as frequently as I water my other spider plants because I do them all on the same day. This one has drainage on the bottom. I'm like, do I even do hydrogen peroxide? There's no pests, none at all. Food always fixes everything for me. I've also never used like actual plant food before for plants. I've always just given them like vegetable water, or like you boil hard-boiled eggs and you give them that water. That's what I've done. All right, next up I have my polka dot plant. There we go. So when I had this, it was like my hair, like everywhere. But from the research I did, it made it seem like this is a type of plant that kind of over time just naturally dies off. Every time you see a leaf that's dead, cut that off because it will make the overall plant last longer. As you can tell, the plant's not necessarily, it's not dead, like it's still in good shape, the leaves that it has left, but it definitely does not have the abundance of leaves that it had when I initially bought it. For this one specifically, I think I'm just gonna feed it. It hasn't completely died yet, and I've had it now for, it's one of the first plants that I got. Can you stop pacing? Please, baby girl. Thank you. Okay, I'm giving it some water. Next up is my Domino peace lily. I'm trying to remember what I named him. Delilah. This is Delilah. As you can see, Delilah and I have something in common. Neither of us are straight, but we're here to fix that, at least for the plant, not for me. It's huge. It's absolutely thriving. The only problem is it is, for some reason, like really tilted. I'm going to loosen up the soil. I'm pretty much going to loosen it up, reposition it, the plant, and then I'm going to pack down the soil and add more soil if I need to. Yeah, there she go. That's what I want. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna really pack down the soil. I'm going to be adding more soil. This is soil I'm using. It's the soil that I use in every plant video, so that's why I didn't show it before. All right, and packing it down again. Okay, I'm going to check The moisture level, it says it's wet. So I really don't feel like I should rewater this one. Next time I water it, the food that's in the new soil that I put on top should go down and feed it. This one has a host of problems. I don't really know what to do about this. I've tried everything with this plant. I don't know if it's normal for all of its leaves to fall off when it's winter. I don't even know if anything in here is salvageable, if there's even any roots alive, if I do anything to this, if it'll even come back. It was thriving and beautiful when I got it and had flowers, and this was a hibiscus, if I remember correctly. And I'm sitting here thinking, what can I do to this plant right here? My wife won't let me take it out of the container because she says she really likes this container. And so I'm like, I don't know what you expect me to do then to fix it. I'm gonna feed it, but do I feed something that's dead? I don't really know, but I figured at this point there's not much I can do. I could do hydrogen peroxide treatment. That'll give it more oxygen. So maybe I'll do that. And I guess I could put some food in there too, but I don't know if I could do the food and the hydrogen peroxide on the same day. I don't know if I can, or if I should, if that'd be too much. God bless me. You know, have you heard the saying that, I don't know if this is true, it's just like something I heard. Apparently when you sneeze, your heart stops for a second, like when you're sneezing. And that's why people say God bless you when you're sneezing, because that second where your heart stops, apparently like the devil or demons or whatever can like creep in. Maybe the person who I heard that from was just saying that just to mess with me. But I don't want to risk it, you know. The thought of the devil having my soul seems a lot worse of an alternative than the possibility that this person's lying to me. Okay, I did that. I'm not really sure what else to do with it. I think I'll probably feed it off camera once all this dries. Whoops. This next plant of mine is very depressing, very sad. I'm very sad about it. I think it's pretty much dead at this point. I've been trying everything in my power to make it come back alive, and I think it's just dead. When I got this plant, it was one of my first plants I ever got. I watched a video online, like a YouTube video online, of like somebody like taking care of their plants and watering their plants. And I was new to planting, and I watched this video of them watering their plants in the shower. When they were watering them, they like let them sit in the shower for like 10 minutes. Like with just water going on them for like 10 minutes. When I watered it, the next time I watered it, I was like, okay, I need to water it a lot, because normally when I was watering my plants, I would just do, you know, a little boom, done. And so I was like, okay, maybe I'm not watering my plants enough, because this person in their video, after they watered, they picked it up, the ones that had drainage, and it was just like a waterfall. So what I did is I went in and I really went in and really gave it a lot of water. And another thing that I did at the same time as well is I also got an LED for this plant. So I'm not sure if it was the light. I'm pretty sure it was the light, but maybe a combination of both. As you can see, it is still dying, and I think at this point it's actually completely dead. Okay, so I'm just gonna give it a good, nice soaking of this, and then I'm gonna put this plant to the side because I really don't know what else I can do for it. This one I keep up in my bedroom. And one day I went up to my bedroom and the whole thing, the stem was like up like this. And then like 2 hours later I went upstairs. I don't know what happened. And the whole plant was falling over. The other plant you see ended up growing after the fact. A new plant started growing and it was doing good up until about 3 days ago. I'm not really quite sure. I know a lot of plants you're supposed to feed every couple of weeks, but that's normally in the growing season. I don't know what's going on with it. I think this one I'm just gonna try to feed and see what happens. This is like my first winter that I've ever gone through with houseplants. And I would say the ones that I've showed, how many have I showed now? Maybe like 4 or 5 that aren't doing very well. So for my very first ever winter with houseplants, I don't think I'm doing too horrible. All right, for my next plant, I had to bring you upstairs in my upstairs bathroom because I didn't want to move it. It's quite big. So what happened with this plant, everything was fine with it until about a week ago. So what happened was it started to get a little bit warmer out, and yes, it's by a window. It's been by this window its entire life. Even in the winter, it didn't die at all. This window does have plastic on it. And also this bathroom has its own controllable heat, so I'm able to set it to the level that this plant likes. Everything was doing great with it. There was nothing wrong with it until one day my wife came up here and she decided, oh, it's starting to kind of get a little bit warmer out. And she turned off the heat up here, and well, this is what we have now. The plant got too cold. While my battery was charging, I cut off the dead ones. Don't judge me on my contraption of setting this up, because that's all I had around the house and it needed it now. So while I'm here, all I'm going to do is just feed it and water it. I know why it was dying. It was dying because my wife turned off the heat and it was still winter out. I don't know why she did that. Also, hi, I just got done doing the neem oil treatment for this plant. Also, I have no idea what is going on with these leaves. They're like faced weird. Like the back is faced weird, and then that one over there, the front's facing, and then this one's the back is facing, and then this one's like sideways. Next up on the list is propagating. And the only plant that I feel like I'm gonna propagate is my spider plant, because it's got like 12 baby plants on it. I have this propagation station that goes in my gaming office. It hangs on the wall. Let me put in some little baby spider plants in there. Here he is in all his glory before I cut him. I saved the best for last. This right in front of me. This little contraption right here. Now essentially what this is, these have holes on the bottom. It also has, as you can see, a container that it sits in. This goes on top for humidity. It acts like a little greenhouse. I will real quick show you. So I've never done this before, starting seeds indoors. Anyways, I got So I got my contraption right here. First things first, you get some sort of container that you don't care about. I make like cookies and stuff in this. I have more of these containers, but I just figured, what's the harm? I got my seed starting mix right here. Let's hopefully not make too big of a mess. Boom, that's what I look like. It's nice and brown. I don't know why I'm smelling it. It literally smells like nothing. So I'm adding water to it, and you kind of want to just add enough water as to where the soil sticks to itself. You don't want it to be like dripping wet. I know that much. So mixing this together, wishing that it was cookie dough. Transferring this in here is going to kind of be the messy part. I'm going to try to be as clean about it as I can be. It's just like, so far, it's just like cooking. Pretend this is your dough. Pretend this is like your muffin pans or whatever, cupcake pans, I guess. And yes, this is how I would do it if I was actually cooking. I would use my hands like a child. I was told to kind of just a tiny bit pack it down. I only watched one YouTube video. If I don't do it right, well, that would be why. Luckily, I have more soil. I'm literally just gonna pour it in the middle, I think, and then spread it out like so. I'm gonna do the parsley and cilantro first. For some things, you can do more than one seed. For the parsley, I'm gonna attempt to do 2. I'll just like stick this in here so that I remember. Next one, cilantro. This one is 1/4. Wow, 1/4. 3, 4, Oops, that one has 2. Some of them will have 1, some of them are gonna have 2. Carrots next. I got 2 different types of carrots. I have long imperator, wow, and garden carrot blend, which is really weird because we never eat carrots. I'm doing 2 for each one because I've had enough experience with seeds before. Grass seed though, not food seeds. But with grass seeds, normally they don't 100% take. Every one that you plant doesn't actually germinate and take. So I'm just trying to eliminate that already completely by planting extras from the get-go. Now, back to Arthur. And back, I got a chopstick because that's what I'm gonna use to push the seeds in. I don't feel like these are really going to take because they're squash. And squash are like, from what I heard, hard to, wow. These look like pumpkin seeds. But from what I heard, squash are harder to grow in this method. Okay, 6 of these. I'm just gonna do 1 for each of these because as you can see, the seeds are really big. And then I'm gonna put the watermelon next to the squash because I also feel like the watermelons aren't gonna grow. Now, randomly, I'm gonna plant these carrots next to these flowers. Next we have these. Are these edible? These bloom for only a day. It says, nick the seed with a knife and soak overnight prior to planting. I'm not gonna do that. So I'm just using the chopstick to push down the seeds to the recommended depth because each seed is going to be different. Now I'm just gonna sprinkle some, I have some soil here. I'm gonna sprinkle some of that onto the seeds real quick, just to make sure that they're like covered up. These I'm gonna leave in here until they start to germinate. Once you start to see them popping up and germinating, then you can take this off. I'm going to leave this in the warmest part of my house and where I get the most amount of sun, which is actually right here on this table, so I don't even have to move them. And yeah, then I'll take this top off and maybe put them under some grow lights, get something set up for them by then. Now, I don't think I missed anything for this video. I know I covered a lot, I did a lot of plant care. It was like an all-day ordeal for me. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe. I just kind of post whenever I post. Let's have a round of applause for all our new healthy plant friends. Bye.